Let's create shape animations in After Effects. To animate shapes in After Effects, so here we have just selected an image of a heart wave. So we will just drag the image, we will scale the image. Right, now we will select the pen tool. Here is the pen tool, and make sure that the fill is off for the pen tool and the stroke is on. So we have given a blue color for the stroke, and the stroke value is 15 pixels. The stroke width is 15 pixels. Right, now we will trace this heart wave. So we need to first deselect the layer. Let's not select the layer, we will deselect the layer and we will select the pen tool, and then we will trace this heart wave. So now we have traced the heart wave. Now let's hide the image layer. Now we can see, so this is the heart wave. So now let's keep the heart wave at the center and let us scale the heart wave. Right, so now to animate this heart wave, we will first collapse the shape layer, and here inside the shape layer we can see contents, and to the right of the contents we can see an option add, and we will add the option trim paths. So we have added trim paths to this shape layer, and now we will animate the trim paths. So what we'll be doing is, we will first set the start and end values to 0, and then we will create a stopwatch or a key for the start value, and now we will move our playhead to, let us say, 2 seconds, and then let's increase our start value to the maximum 100%. Right, now if we hit home button and space bar, we can see we got a simple heart wave animation. And let us also try to change the look of this heart wave. Right now the stroke has a uniform thickness, so let's change the thickness of this shape. Let's collapse the shape one of this shape layer, and inside the shape one we will again collapse the stroke one, and here we can find the taper, and now let's collapse the taper, and here we have start length, and we will increase the start length value to maximum 100%. And now if we play, we can see the stroke right now is thick on the left side and thin on the right side. Now it resembles the real heart wave. Right, now let's do one more thing. We want this stroke animation to continue forever, to loop continuously. So for that we need to write an expression. To write an expression, first we need to collapse the shape layer, and we have to write the expression for the keys that we have animated, means the trim paths start key which we have animated. And now what we'll be doing is, we will write an expression. We will hold Alt in PC or Option in Mac and click on the stopwatch for this start key, and now we can see some default expression in the timeline, and we will just remove this default expression, and we will write our own expression, which is loop out. Here we can see the pop-up. We can just select the loop out from the list, and then we will use double quotes, and the moment we just hit the double quotes, we can see another drop down list, and from this drop down list we will select cycle and then hit enter. That's it. So now this animation will cycle continuously, will play continuously. No matter how many frames or seconds we take, the animation will play forever. So let's hit the space bar. Now we can see the animation is playing forever. Right. We can do one small adjustment here. We will just select the shape layer and we can hit U. The U key will open up the keyframes that are animated. And now we can do one more thing. We can actually bring these keyframes a little bit close. Let's make the animation a little bit fast. Now if we play the animation, now the animation plays a little bit fast. And now we can do one more thing. We can select both the keyframes and we can right click on the keyframes. We can go to keyframe assistant and here we have this easy ease. And if you play again, so now we can see there is a small change in the speed of the animation. And to see a visible change, we can just open the speed graph. We can just click on this graph editor and then we can see this curve, the speed curve, and we can just drag these points and make our curve look like this, so that the animation speed looks somewhat attractive. So we can see the animation appears in a jerk. Let's do an animation with the ellipse tool. So here we will select the ellipse tool and then we will just hold shift and create an ellipse. So if we hold shift, we will be creating a perfect ellipse. And we can increase the stroke width for the ellipse and we need to turn off the fill. Right. Then we can change the color for the ellipse and let's increase the stroke width even further. That's it. Right. Now we will just take a duplicate of this shape layer. So we will simply hit Ctrl D in PC or Command D in Mac. And now we will scale down the shape layer and let's put both the ellipses at the center of our composition. So we need to change the center point first. So first we will select the first shape layer and to change the center point for this ellipse, here we have an option, pan behind or anchor point tool. We can also use the keyboard shortcut Y, and then here we can now change the center point. But one more thing is, let's turn on this snapping option so that this center point will snap to the center of the object. So let's just move the center point. Now the center point has snapped to the center of this object. Now let's also put this ellipse at the center of our composition. For that we will just open the align options on the right side here. So we will just click on this align horizontally and also align vertically. Now our ellipse is placed exactly at the center, and we will do the same thing for the second shape layer. We will first change its center point. We will just move its center point and then we will just keep the shape at the center of our composition. Now it looks fine. And now we can select the selection tool to deactivate the anchor point tool. Right. Now what we'll be doing is we will select the inner stroke and we will just collapse the shape layer so that we can see all the options. We will change the color here. Color is currently white. We will change it to, let's say, red. Right. Now we will select the outer stroke here. We can rename the layer. We can just rename the layer outer stroke, and we can just rename the top layer as inner stroke. Right. So now what we'll be doing is we will just animate the same trim paths. So what we'll be doing is we will first add the trim paths. Just inside the outer stroke layer we have this add button, and from the add button let's select the trim paths, and now we will just animate the trim paths here. The trim paths start and end here. We will keep the value 0 0 for both start and end, and we will turn on the stopwatch for the start option, and then we will just move our playhead to 1 second, and then we will just increase the value to 100%. Right. And now if we play, so we can see. Right. And then we can do one more thing here. We can also turn on the stopwatch for the end option, and then we can just move our key to, let's say, 2 seconds, and we can just increase it to 100%. And if we play now, so we can see. Right. And we can also just select the keyframes for the end, and we can just move them a little bit to the left. So now if we see the animation, we can see. Right. And we can just make all the keys easy ease. And now if we play. Right. So now we got the animation. And we can do another thing. We can just animate the inner stroke now. So we will again do the same thing. We can add the trim parts to it, and then we will first make the start and end value to 0 0, and then again we will just create keys for the start and end values, and then we will just go to the 1 second time, and then we will increase the end value here. That's it. We can just increase the value for the start value, and then we can move the keyframes for the start value, and then just we can place the keys in this manner. And if we just play, so now we can see. So we have created a nice circular animation here, and we will do one more thing, that is we will select all the keys again, and here we will just select the keyframe assistant, and we will select easy ease. So we can see, and there is one more thing that we'll do. We'll select all the keys, we'll right click keyframe assistant, and we will select time reverse keyframes. So now we can see here. So something like this. And there is one more thing that we can do. We can select both the layers, the inner stroke and outer stroke, by holding shift, and we can right click and select pre-compose. Pre-compose means we are actually grouping these two layers. We are making these two layers into a single layer, and we will just give some name. We can say stroke animation or elliptical animation, whatever. Right. And now if we play, so we can see. So what is the use of this pre-compose option? So we can take one more duplicate here. So we can hit Ctrl D or Command D, and then we can just move our playhead a little bit, and we can just scale down here. So we can see here. Right. And now if we just play, so now we can see we got some nice animation here. right. And we can do one more thing here. We can just select both these layers again, and we can do one more pre-compose layer. So we can just right click and then select pre-compose. We'll just use the default options, and we can say final recompose or pre-compose layer, right. And now we will take one more duplicate here, and then we will just scale down. So right, now we will see. So this is an interesting elliptical animation, and we can do one more thing, that is we can take a duplicate of one layer and we can just change its position. And if we play now, so we can see we can just move the layer a little bit to the left, and let's take one more duplicate here and let's move it. So we can see a nice circular animation we have created using the ellipse tool. And just to make it more interesting, we will now select all these layers and right click over them and pre-compose. We will just create just say one last ellipse, and then we will take one more duplicate, and then we will just move the ellipse to a different position. We will also scale them. We'll just move the position here, and we will just take one more, the last and final one, and again we will change the position here, right. So now we got an interesting animation full of ellipses. So if we play, so we can see we can slightly just move this last ellipse to a little bit left. So this is how we can animate shapes in After Effects.